Alrighty. So I invite you to start on your backs today. A couple of quick things. It might be helpful to have a pillow nearby, just within reach, or a folded up blanket. And we're going to come through that half moon again. So if you found something that works for you to use as a prop, I'm going to be using the little ottoman thing I've got here, but you could use just the seat of a couch, the seat of a chair, something to kind of lift the floor up a little bit. And yeah, if you've done it before, you'll kind of know what that looks like. And if not, we can find some options when we get there. I'm just going to do a little. All right. So if it's comfortable for you, let's find our way down onto our backs. And perhaps just have that pillow or blanket that you're using within reach, just off to the side out of your way, but so you can grab it in a little while. And as you arrive on your back, I'd like to just take time to settle in here. You might do a little bit of movement, find a comfortable place for the feet, whether they're resting flat or whether they're extending out long. Feeling the body connect down into the floor underneath you. And just allowing whatever has been going on for you today to settle into the background for a little while. Depending on how busy and hectic your day has been so far, it's possibly unrealistic to expect that we can forget everything that's been going on, but we can arrive here on our mats by feeling into our physical body, noticing all the points of contact between our body and the floor and the earth underneath us. We can pay attention to the next few breaths, drawing in the air down deep into the lungs, feeling that expansion in the belly. As we breathe out, feeling a softening back down towards the floor. Just taking a few breaths in that way. Then perhaps starting to notice whatever's going on for you physically at the moment. There might be some obvious spots of tightness or tension. These might be related directly to different activities that you've been doing, or it might just be, general stuff that happens for you. And throughout our time together today, we're going to really explore some joyful movement. And when we're exploring joyful movement, we bring curiosity, we bring a sense of playfulness. And just remembering that doesn't necessarily take away from all the other stuff that's going on. And so if you've got, certain areas of pain or sensitivity or challenge at the moment, those things can still be there while we're still focusing on finding joy, finding playfulness. When you're ready, I invite you to draw the knees in towards the chest, holding on in whatever way works best for you. And then just finding some movement here. A little bit of a rock side to side. You might circle the knees away from the body a little. How far can you roll over to one side before you kind of roll all the way over onto the side of the body? Just explore kind of the edges of control there with that rolling movement. And then gradually making those movements smaller. Getting those points of contact through the back of the hips, the lower back, the upper back. And then let's find that most center point. So sort of coming into the center of that position for you, finding a balanced place to be. And we're going to expand out from the center of the body. So thinking of the center of the body as this area around the belly button. Let's take the left arm and just extend it out away diagonally from the body in a way that feels good for you. And then drawing it back into the center. Then we're going to do the same in the left leg. So you could bring the foot down to the floor and slide the foot away, or you could keep the leg lifted and take the leg away from the body, just on a comfortable diagonal angle. And then with an exhale, we'll bring it back in. Then we're going to swap over to the right leg. So we extend the right foot away, reaching away from this center point of the body, and then drawing back in. And then the right arm. So right arm reaching away on the diagonal. And then back in. So let's continue around again. So once more out of each limb. It's like this big star shape we're slowly creating. Inhale to reach and extend away, and exhale to return. Just keep on going around the limbs in your own time. And we want to make sure the back is stable through this sequence. So if you feel like as you extend the leg in particular, the back arches up away from the floor, and you feel the front of the body sort of collapse open, just make the movement smaller, bring the foot down to the floor. Now you can keep going with one at a time, or you might like to try two at a time. So opposite hand and leg, extending away from the center of the body. So I've got left hand, right leg. You could do the same, you could do the opposite, and then drawing them back into the center together. And then the opposite hand, so the right hand, left leg, reaching away on opposite angles and then coming back in. So again, using your breath if that's helpful. You might even, the arm and the leg that are staying put might connect here in the center. You could hold on to that opposite knee in the middle if you like. But really focusing on the movement. How can we reach and expand away from the body in a way that feels really good? And then come back in. And again, you can stay with this two at a time. You can come back to one at a time. Or you might like to try four at a time, reaching both arms and legs out together. And then drawing them back in. And again, you can bring the feet down if you're looking for a bit more support for the back or a bit of a bigger expansion. Can you breathe while you're doing this? The inhale helps us expand. The exhale brings us back in. And let's do this for two more breaths. So whether you're working with one limb at a time, two or four. And the lungs fill up as everything reaches away. And that one last time, let's return in. Maybe a big squeeze of the knees in. You might even lift the nose towards the knees, curling the upper back off the mat. And then we'll release down, and let's find that star shape now, lying along the floor. So we'll take the legs long, we'll take the arms out wide. We're going to use this starfish shape to roll from side to side. So to start, let's bring the left elbow and knee in towards the center, crossing them over the body so we can roll onto our right side. They come across and they touch the floor just across in front of us. And then we're going to return back. So we slowly roll back onto our back. As we're arriving, let's expand that left leg and arm out. And then we're going to do the opposite. So right leg and arm, draw into center, come across the body and help us roll onto our left side and then returning back. Beautiful work. Let's just do that a couple more times, exploring that side to side movement. How much control can you get as you take that arm and leg across in front of the body, touching down and then returning back once you get there. And then one more time, let's come across to the left side. And then we're going to roll once more over onto our right. So drawing in the left elbow and knee and crossing them over. Once we arrive, we're going to kind of reset on our side. So we're going to squiggle the hips back a little, perhaps. We can bring that pillow underneath the head, or you could curl your bottom arm underneath your head. And then stacking the legs on top of each other. So we want both knees bent. We want our feet, our hips, and our shoulders in one long line. So the knees bend forwards in front of the body. And then we're going to take some clam lifts. So we attach the feet together as we lift and lower this top knee. So just the top knee lifts and lowers here. And it can be really helpful to have that top hand on the top hip, just to make sure we're not rolling forwards or backwards with the hips. We want to stay really neatly stacked on the side of the body, just lifting and lowering the top knee. If this is feeling pretty comfortable, you're welcome to lift both feet off the floor, still keep them attached, and then lift and lower the top knee from there. Gives us a bit of a bigger range of motion, works that top glutes, the top outer hip a little bit more here. Just finding smooth, steady breaths. You feel the strength in the outer hip with that lift. And can we control it on the way down as well? And our focus throughout today is finding joyful movement. And so if you can do this movement, but it's pretty challenging and it's not feeling particularly joyful, just bring it back to a place where you can explore with curiosity. You can be a bit playful about what the sensations are, how it feels for you today. Can you still breathe comfortably? Let's take one more cycle here. And letting the top leg soften down, just letting it sink into the bottom leg. You might make a fist with that top hand and give that bottom a little pummel or a little massage, just a bit of a release there for those muscles that often don't quite do their fair share. They get a good wake-up call through this movement. And then we're going to come to the other side. Now you're welcome to return back through that starfish shape and just roll directly to the other side. I'm just going to come up and over so I can stay facing you all. So hopefully you found yourself on your right-hand side this time. Sorry, left-hand side this time. Squiggling around so the shoulders, the hips, the feet are stacked, so the knees are bent. And then when you're ready, connecting the feet together, lifting and lowering that top knee. And so you can choose to lift both feet off the floor if you're looking for that bigger range through this movement. But again, can we check in with that top hip and make sure it stays stacked? And sometimes in these movements where it's an unusual movement for the body, we don't do a lot that kind of gets into this part of the glutes and the hips. And also it's not a very big movement. Our bodies often won't let us move very far in this direction. We can sort of get into a mindset where we feel a bit restricted, we feel a bit frustrated. And so within that, can we find a sense of joy and ease here? Do we need to step it back a little to find that? Do we need to focus maybe on the depth of the breath rather than the range of the movement? Or maybe you want to pay really close attention to those physical sensations. What are the actual sensations you're feeling? What part of the glutes, the hips, the legs do you feel engaging and working hard here as you lift up and as you lower down? Let's take two more. And then slowly let's allow that top leg to soften down and relax here. We can bring that fist in for a bit of a massage, bit of a pummel. And then we're going to make our way up to all fours. So just continuing over, pushing ourselves up. We can pop that pillow out of the road now for a little while. As we find hands and knees, wrists under shoulders, knees under hips. Now let's explore cat and cow from here. So inhale, we can press the spine up towards the ceiling, feeling that natural tuck of the chin. And then coming down the other way, finding length through the belly, the chest. Working backwards and forwards in your own time. And if this straight forwards and backwards movement is feeling really good for you, I encourage you to stay with that. If you'd like to, though, we can find a little bit more kind of fluid, intuitive movement, maybe a bit of circular movement through the shoulders or the hips, cycling it around in a way that just feels really good for you. Focus on the sensations that come with the movement rather than the movement itself. You might want to stay in one spot for a breath or two, or you might want to keep it moving, just feeling the stretch through different parts of the body. Let's take two more breaths, moving or still, in whatever way feels good here. And then we'll find a neutral spine. So coming back in between that cat and cow shape. And we're going to take the right leg straight back from where it is, tucking the toes under. Let's feel that length down the back of the leg, in the calf, in the hamstring. The back is still really long and supported here. And we're pressing strong through the hands. The connection to the floor is really important here. And then let's turn into a gate pose. That left foot is going to spin flat, the toes pointing away to the left. Sorry, the right toes at the back are going to point away to the right. I'm trying to mirror and it's not working for me today. This foot underneath us is going to work away to the left behind us. We're going to press into our left hand and reach the right hand up tall. So we've found our gate pose. The chest and the front of the hips are gradually opening to the side wall. You could take your gaze up to that top hand or just find a place that feels nice to look for your neck. Just take a breath here, a little bit of softness in that supporting elbow. And then let's find a little bit of movement here. So our inhales are going to expand us open to here. With our exhale, let's draw that top elbow down towards the belly button. So it's a squeeze back to center. Inhale, let's reach out tall. And exhale, leading with the elbow squeezing back into center. Let's do a couple more like that. And a couple of options here. You're welcome to stay exactly as you are doing the movement this way. You might like to float that back leg up and keep the arm moving as it is, just adding that extra component of balance. Or you might like, with that back leg lifted, to draw the knee and the elbow in towards together at the belly and then expand out from there. So different options to have a play with. If we think about that ball shape on our backs where we're expanding, it's quite a similar movement, but very different sensations. So play with those sensations. How does it feel for you today? Can you find a sense of joy in this movement, even where there's challenge? Let's take two more through any of those versions. You can leave that back leg floating out. You can have it connected to the floor. And then last time, we're going to draw the elbow in towards the middle and turn towards the floor. Let's return back to all fours. And let's come back to that movement. You might find a cat and cow. You might find some more sort of flowing circular movement. Or you might want to settle down into child's pose, feeling that space through the back of the body as you relax the head towards the floor. And smooth, steady breath. Whether you're moving or still here. And then let's go through that sequence on the other side. So finding that length in the back here. Let's take the left leg back this time, tucking toes under, feeling that length down the leg. Just pausing there for a moment. What do you notice here? Then let's rotate the back foot, pointing the toes away to the left. Let's take this foot underneath us and take it away to the right. Pressing into the right hand, and we open up, reaching that left arm up tall this time, and that space and reach across the chest. When you're ready, we can find that movement. The exhale squeezes the elbows down, and the inhale lets us expand up. And how much activation through the muscles can we bring into this movement? So we could let that arm kind of just fall with gravity, or we could imagine we're sort of pulling something down with the arm. So the muscles around the arm, the sides of the body, the back start to work here. You might keep that back foot on the floor, or you might lift it. You might keep the leg long, or you might start to draw that knee in towards the middle with the elbow. Completely up to you. Lots of options to play with. Find that one that fits you best. We can find that sense of joyful expression in your movement, even if there's challenge, if that's what you're looking for today. Bring that expansion out through the center. Let's take two more times through. And then this time we squeeze in. Let's return back to all fours, touching back down with the hand, bringing both knees under hips, and settling back into child's pose, maybe taking the knees a little wider as we let the hips settle back, finding support for the head here, either the floor or the fists. Can we feel the movement of the breath in our body? You might feel the way the belly expands into the legs a little. You might be able to feel a rise, a space in the back of the ribs, the middle lower back. Just take a couple of breaths here. And then let's release the hands, coming up to all fours. Setting hands under shoulders, knees under hips, and let's find our first downward dog, tucking all the toes under, pressing into the feet and the hands. Let's take the hips high. And I invite you to explore your downward dog today. So we can pedal the legs here. We can sort of tilt the hips to one side and then the other. You might even like to bend both knees, rounding the spine a little and then pressing the chest back, almost like a mini cat and cow in our downward dog. But I invite you to explore movement that's not kind of your typical go-to. Often we get into downward dog and we have a very set sequence for how we settle in. I'd like you to play with it a little differently today. Move the hips in some different directions, bend the knees in different ways. You can even turn the heels out and turn the heels in. Feel what it feels like with that leg rotation. And then allowing, with a bit of soft knees, the heels to settle towards the floor, pushing strong through the hands. The spine is long, the chest draws back towards the thighs. Taking a breath or two here, strong through the hands. And then let's steadily walk the hands back towards the feet, taking that transition smoothly and steadily. As you arrive in your feet, again, how can we settle into our forward fold in a bit of a different way? Can you bring a bit of a twisting movement to the chest, to one side and the other? Can you pedal the feet in the way you might in your downward dog? Just exploring movement in a different way to maybe give us some different things to pay attention to bring a bit of novelty, a bit of curiosity to our movement this morning. And then let's slowly come up to stand. So soften the knees, let's tuck the tailbone. Curling and rising gradually here. As we arrive upright, we can find a little bit of a squeeze of the shoulder blades back down together here. A firm connection through the feet. And as we did when we were curled up in our ball, let's explore some different movements. So you might want to close your eyes if you feel like exploring the balance aspect a little more. Otherwise, just shifting forwards and backwards on the feet. Noticing as you go forwards, what sort of engages and stops you from continuing in that forwards movement. And same when we go back, what part of the body catches you here? What do you feel engaged to help support you and bring you back to center? Let's try out to the side, same thing to each side, keeping both feet firmly grounded. You might feel the weight shift more to one foot than the other. What part of the body holds you, catches you here to bring you back again? And then what happens when we bring those movements together? We sort of go round in a circle. How wide can you make that circle while still feeling relatively balanced? But where are those supporting muscles? What is keeping you contained here? You might like to explore the other direction, see if it's the same or different. And then we can gradually make our way to a balanced center point. So just making those movements a little smaller as you feel comfortable. Finding that center position that feels really strong and steady, a softness in the knees. It's not a rigid strength, it's a bit of a flexible strength here. And let's take those side bends as we often do. So inhale out and up overhead. Holding onto the right wrist with the left hand, let's lift and lengthen over away to the left. Coming back up to center, let's swap those hands over. Let's lift over and away to the right. Let's do one more each time, up to center, really lifting, lengthening. Can we press through the feet in particular? And once more with your breath. Beautiful. Let's bring the arms down. And we're going to make sure we're at the front of our space. So checking you've got some room behind you here. We'll come through our salute to the sun. Let's inhale out and up overhead. And then bending the knees, belly to thighs. Let's forward fold. Supporting the upper body over the lower body. Letting the head be soft and heavy here. When you're ready, we can look at the feet and step the right foot straight back from where it is. Bringing the right knee down, so we're in our low lunge. And strong here, you can keep the hands connected to the floor or to blocks if you have them. You can bring the hands up to the knee here. Really strong and stable through both legs. Can we feel that bit of length in the front of the right hip here? And from here, we're going to find a bit of a swinging motion for the right arm. So the left arm stays on the knee or thigh if you're upright, or on the floor of the block if you're forwards. And either way, we're going to inhale to sweep this right arm back behind us. And then exhale to swing back to center. So inhale to open out behind us. And exhale to come back forwards. We want it to feel good for the shoulder, so only take it as far as it works for you today. And we can open the chest a little too. So we're really strong through both legs, pushing down firmly to keep us stable. But maybe your gaze follows that hand if that works for you. Again, if you're lower down, it's very similar movement. And it's up to you. You can stay just with the arm movement. Or as you sweep that arm back, we can start to lengthen the front leg, maybe lifting the toes up, coming into a sort of almost half split, and then back to our low lunge as the arm sweeps forwards. So sweeping back and sweeping forwards. If you're upright, it'll look a little more like this. We start to lengthen that leg. It's a lot for the balance, so connect firmly through the base. Let's take 2 more with your own smooth, steady breath, whichever option is working for you. And then let's come forward. We're going to touch down here, coming back around for our plank, bringing that left leg around to meet the right. Shoulders over the wrists, strong through both hands. Feeling connection down from the armpits all the way to the knees. Can we press firmly to connect through the front of the body? And can we inhale, bending the elbows any amount towards the sides of the body, and then exhale to push back up. Inhale to lower down. Exhale to push back up. And you can play with this in any way you like. We're finding that joyful movement. So do you want to push towards the edge of what you're capable of today? Or do you want to keep it really small and see how far do you have to go before you feel a little bit of sensation there? Let's take 2 more with our breath. As big or as small as you like today. And then let's tuck the toes, drawing the hips back, feeling a gentle reach and pull through the arms here. And then we're going to pull from our hands to draw ourselves forward. So let's take that cycle through where we lead with the heart. We've got that cow dip in the spine. And then we arch the back, pulling back to child's pose. Taking a few times around that cycle of movement. Drawing forwards, lifting back. How fluid and fun can you make this movement? How big does it need to be for you to feel really good in your body? Maybe that means bigger, maybe that means smaller. And then let's take that transition through to Sphinx Pose. So bringing the elbows down this time as we draw the heart forwards, we're sliding the upper arms along. Maybe easier or more difficult depending on your floor surface. And then we bring the hips down. So we've got the front of the hips, the tops of the feet planting firmly, connected from the hands down to the elbows. We're lifting, drawing the heart open here. And as we enter back into a bit more of a static pose, can we feel that movement in the breath again? As your lungs fill up and expand, what sensations come with that? As they gently draw out, what do you notice change or edge or soften? Let's take 1 more full breath. Releasing the chest down towards the floor. And let's find our downward dog again. So pressing straight up if you like, or you can come through all fours with me. As you take the hips high here, feeling that strength from the hands all the way to the hips. And you're welcome to stay in downward dog or come back to tabletop or child's pose anytime you like. If you're wanting to explore 3-legged dog today, let's plant through the right foot and lift the left heel high. Can we reach that left heel long and strong towards the top of the wall behind us? Even through the hands, even through the shoulders here, even with the breath. And then if you're taking that 3-legged option, let's gently change it over, touching down with the left foot and then pressing strong and away with the right heel. Again, smooth and steady, even through the hands. One last breath in whatever option's working for you. And then stepping forwards from our lunge. So from this 3-legged dog, you might tuck that right knee in, draw forwards and step through. From anywhere else, we can bring the left knee down and step forwards. Finding our right lower lunge here. So strong through both feet. You could stay down on your supports or you could come up onto the thigh. We're going to take that swinging movement with the left hand this time. So when you're ready, bring the left hand forwards and then sweeping it back behind and coming through again. So how much can we stabilize through the base? It can be really tempting when we're doing this for the hips to kind of open or shift around. If we concentrate our energy downwards through the feet, hopefully that movement stays just from the belly button upwards. We've got a bit of a twisting rotation through the ribs and the chest. If you want to add that leg option, you can. As we draw back behind, that little bit of a lengthen, a little bit of a lift of the front toes, and then bending back forwards. Again, we want this to feel good for your body, but we also want it to feel a little bit fun. How can you play around with it? Some days, those wobbles, those kind of challenges for our balance can feel quite frustrating, but other days it's a bit of fun. It's a bit of an option to play around with a new type of movement. Now, balance is very much use it or lose it. So these opportunities to play and have fun and challenge our balance are so important for our mobility. Let's take 2 more. And then when you come back forwards next, let's touch down if you haven't already, and we'll bring that back leg in. So we're going to lift the back knee, taking a big lunge step forwards or a few little steps to come back to a forward fold. Feet a comfortable distance apart, belly resting on the legs here with soft knees. And again, finding a different option from your usual go-to. So maybe that's holding opposite elbows. Maybe you want to bring the hands to the backs of the calves and sort of almost hug the chest a little closer towards the knees, not pulling or forcing, but just seeing what it feels like to add a bit of a gentle pressure there. You may even like to interlace the fingers behind the back and extend the knuckles up towards the ceiling. Lots of different options to play with, perhaps finding one that feels a little new and a little different. What can you notice there with your breath? And let's gently release. And let's come to roll up to stand, that slow, steady unfurling. Maybe the arms hang heavy, maybe they walk up the body. Take perhaps a bit of a roll here. Bit of a wiggle and a wriggle. And then as we come into stillness, maybe closing the eyes if that feels comfortable for you. Just finding ourselves in a place where we can appreciate the things in our life that bring this sense of joy, this sense of playfulness. So often we're focused on our responsibilities, our caring activities, all the things we do for others that we can just forget to even pay attention to the things that bring us joy. So if you can identify 1 or 2 things that you love doing just for you, perhaps just letting your attention rest there for a few breaths. Alrighty, we can open the eyes. You might like to grab a quick drink, just taking a moment here. And we'll come into standing movements. So with our standing movements this morning, we're going to start with a variation on chair pose. So finding chair pose first. We've got the feet a comfortable distance apart, sitting the bottom back. We've got this imaginary block in between our legs and we're squeezing into that space. And so once you set up there, hopefully you can feel that bit of engagement around the glutes, the outer hips. It's quite similar to those clam lifts we were doing, actually, a similar area where we're aiming to tap into. Once we're here, we just check in with the low belly and the low back, making sure we're not too far tucked under or too far tucked away. We're quite neutral in the pelvis. And we can bring our arms forwards in front of us here. And we're going to take that similar movement that we played with in our low lunge. So sitting in our chair pose, we're going to sweep that right hand back away behind us and come back forwards. And then come over to the other side. So a sweep away behind and then coming back through. And we're going to alternate that movement. And so like with our lunge, we're aiming to keep the base stable. So we're aiming to keep squeezing into this space as we come through this movement of the shoulders and the chest. And it's up to you. You can take it really slow, like you're controlling it the whole way through. Sometimes it can feel really nice to almost let go of the arm and let it swing with gravity, and we sort of catch it at the other end. It's a bit of a different sensation. So if you want to play with that one, feel free. If and when you feel ready, you might want to go at the same time. So we can take one arm back as that arm's coming back forwards, we can swing the other one down. So we sort of end up rotating the chest side to side. Again, you can control it the whole way through, or you can have this drop and swing effect. We're aiming to keep stability. So can we keep squeezing into the center of that space in between the legs? And one final add-on, if you like, if you're doing this side to side, you could bring a bit of a bounce to it. So we lower into the chair pose a little more and then press back out of it with the arms. And then lastly, check that you're breathing. Now I've given you all that extra information. Just check in that that breath's still there for you. Beautiful work. Let's take one more each side. We're going to come back to center, bring both arms forwards. Then let's see if we can lift our heels from here. A little bit of extra challenge for the balance this morning. And then straightening up through the legs while keeping those heels lifted. And then just letting everything fall down. The heels, the arms, all of it letting go. Beautiful. Roll of the shoulders if you need. Lovely. All right, let's come into a warrior two. But first we're going to bring in our support. So grab whatever you're using for your half moon pose later on. It might mean moving over towards a couch or a chair if whatever you're using isn't movable, or you can bring whatever you've got to the short edge of your mat or at one end of your space. So we're going to face our support and we're going to step back with the left leg. So we're going to take a nice generous step back here, coming into a lunge, and then we're going to turn it into a warrior two. So this back foot spins flat. Maybe the toes point straight out to the left, or maybe they're more on the angle. Just check in with your hips and see what feels right. And we've got this front knee over the ankle and we're pressing down through both feet, maybe out a little bit, just really connected through the base of the feet. If it feels good for you, you could bring your arms out long. So we've got the right arm coming forwards, the left arm reaching back. And finding a smooth, steady breath here. And that space, that lightness across the fingertips through the breath. That strong, steady base here. And then let's bring this back arm. We're going to sweep the left arm around to the front and then pull it back across the chest. So it's like we're pulling back a bow and then sweeping around again. Just taking this movement, how stable and strong can we stay through the base while we're getting this little bit of rotation, a little bit of a twisting movement through the spine. Find a rhythm that works for your breath. Let's take one more time through. And can you really feel that expanse across the arms, the chest? A smooth, steady breath here. And then let's bring the arms down. We're going to straighten this front leg a little bit. So we straighten the front leg and then we'll just bend back into it. We'll go back and forth a few times. Strong and steady through the feet as we bend and straighten. And then we're going to straighten it. We're not going to lock the knee. We want a slight bend in the knee and we'll bring the arms back out again. It's like someone's pulling us forwards from the right fingertips. And then we're going to wheel down to the leg. And just let that hand come to wherever it does. It might be above the knee, below the knee. If you're super bendy, it might be towards the floor. It really doesn't matter. But we're using this pressure of the hand on the leg. We've got a slight bend in this knee, don't forget. And when we're opening this chest up and open towards the ceiling, maybe you take your gaze up, maybe looking to the side walls enough for today. While we're here, can we breathe smoothly? And can we have a think about this underside of the waist, this right side of the waist, lifting up and extending. So we're still long through the spine and this side's lifting up. We're not just, collapsing over as far as we can go. We're really engaged and strong here. Smooth, steady breath. Let's take one more breath. Now let's bend into this knee And we're going to push ourselves back up, bringing the arms down. And let's make our way to our half moon. Now, if you've been coming the last few weeks, you're familiar with it, just go ahead and find it in your own time. If you're needing a bit of a step-by-step through it, we want our support about a foot away from our knee. We're going to hop this back leg in, and we're going to bring the right hand down onto the support right underneath the shoulder. So we don't want to be reaching too far away or too cramped in. We want to be able to keep this nice space down the right side of the waist, like we had in that triangle pose. Now we can lift up from here and just start to play with lifting this back leg. So maybe you lift a little, maybe you want to lift and lower a few times. If you're finding the balance super tricky, you want more support, find your way to a wall and do this right up against the wall. So you've got your bottom kind of on the wall, and then you can play with that little bit of support. If you've found that position, let's play with that movement we did in our gate pose. So with our exhale, let's draw that top elbow towards the belly. Inhale, expanding, reaching up tall. Exhale to squeeze that elbow in. And inhale to reach out tall. Now, if you feel like you've got capacity, maybe you add that leg in too, the top elbow and knee coming towards each other and then expanding out. It's a lot of shifting weight on a very tricky balance. So be kind, be gentle, explore and have fun with it. Finding that option that's right for you here. Maybe it's keeping those toes down and playing with that draw of the elbow and that reach out. Let's take 2 more breaths, whichever option is working for you here. And then let's take that same movement. So we squeeze the elbow in, maybe the knee as well, as we rotate back around, coming to face our supporting object. And let's take a bit of a cat and cow here. So soft in the knees, let's arch up towards the ceiling, tucking the chin, and then finding that length in the front of the body. Just a little back and forth here with your breath. And when you're ready, we can roll up to stand. So we can arch up and bring the hands up the body just to come upright. Nice and slow and steady here. And then when you're ready, we can swap over to the other side. So again, depending on how you've set up your space, you might keep your support in exactly the same thing and step back with the other leg. Otherwise, you can bring your support around to the other side. We're going to go through that same sequence. So facing our support, we're going to step back with the right leg this time. Setting up here, strong through the front knee. And let's turn this back heel down. So we're open to our warrior 2 out to the right side of our space this time. Feeling that strong connection through the feet. Maybe we push them away from each other a little as we reach out opposite arms here, extending from one edge of the room to the other. Smooth and steady. And then let's take that bow pull. We're going to sweep the back arm around to the front, pulling back across the chest here. Taking that smooth, steady flow with your breath. It can be really nice to follow this moving hand with your gaze if that feels good for the neck. But can you stay steady and stable here? Feeling that little bit of a twisting movement through the ribs, through the shoulders. Let's take one more here. And then bring the hands down. Let's just have a play with straightening this front leg, pressing the front leg long and then ending back into it. Just take it a few times through that movement, not locking the front knee, but just playing. Maybe you want to bend a little further over the toes. You can play with that if it feels engaged and supportive through the thighs. And then the next time we lengthen, let's stay there. Again, we've got that slight bend in the knee, arms out long. This time we're being pulled forwards by these left fingertips, reaching away from the body, and then cartwheeling down towards the body. So hand on top of the leg, either up high or down low, wherever that kind of natural tilt brings you. With this engagement, so we're strong and connected through the core, we're lifting through this underside of the body. Finding a place for the gaze for 2 more breaths. Beautiful. Let's bend into that front knee. And again, you can head straight to your half moon pose or bringing that right hand onto the hip. Let's hop that right leg in, finding our support here. So our support's about a foot away from our left foot. I bring the hand down onto our support. Have a play around with lifting that leg. Do you want to lift it a little? Do you want to lift it a lot? Do you want to take a few goes at lifting and lowering, really feeling into this supporting leg? It's got a slight bend in this supporting knee. Can you find a place where there's length and lift in this left-hand side of the body? Maybe you want to reach that arm up tall, and then starting those squeeze-ins when you're ready, and exhale to pull that elbow in towards the center of the body. Inhale to expand out wide. So thinking back again to when we were curled in a ball on our back, extending our arms and legs, feeling playful, feeling joyful in that movement. Can we bring an element of that here, even with the extra challenge? Maybe you want to pull the knee in as well, completely up to you. Working this space with expansion, with the breath reaching away, and exhale, really feeling that support, that focus here, coming to any of the previous options. Let's take one last full breath here. And then let's bring ourselves in. Let's draw in towards the belly, rotate towards our support. This next one's going to depend on what you're using. So we're aiming to get a firm grip on your object. So if you've got a chair or a footstool, you might hold around the outside. If you're using a bench, you might just hold on to the front edge. We're going to bend softly into the knees and then pull the hips back behind us. And we're aiming to feel a stretching sensation through the arms. So it's a little bit like a downward dog shape, but our weight is shifting backwards and we're pulling some length through the chest and the arms. Now, if your object is movable like mine, you're not going to want to pull back too much because the object's going to pull across the floor with you. If you've got a solid object like a heavy piece of furniture, you can go ahead and really let those hips sink back. And if you think of it, coming and doing this at the kitchen bench later on is a super lovely stretch, just holding onto the front edge of the bench and then letting the hips draw you back. It's a beautiful pulling sensation that we don't get a lot of in yoga. We work with our body weight, we're pushing rather than pulling. So it can be a really lovely release for the shoulders, for the spine. And then let's gently come back forwards, coming up to stand in a way that's comfortable for you. And let's bring our support out of the way if you need to. We're done with that one for today. But we are going to bring our pillow with us as we come down to the floor. So just popping it nearby while you make your way down in any way that feels supportive for you right now. And we're going to come back into that side lying position. So choose whichever side you like. And I encourage you to use the pillow or blanket this time rather than your hand, because we're going to want this bottom hand in a minute for something else. So we've got the knees bent, we've got feet, hips, shoulders all in line with each other. This time we're going to connect the knees together and lift and lower this top foot. So just that top foot moving again. We can use this hand on the top thigh to the top hip rather, to make sure we're not sort of rocking too far forwards and backwards. Another lovely thing to do can be to bring this top hand onto the thigh just to feel that gentle rotation. The leg turns, we don't need to get much of a rotation to really feel it in the body. But where are you feeling it? What are the sensations that sort of tell you where the edge of that movement is for you? Is it something in the hip, the leg? Hopefully you're not feeling it too much in the lower back. You want to be stable and supported here, but just notice those sensations. Let's take two more in your own time. And then let's let that leg rest again. And our legs for this next bit, they're going to be our anchor. And so we extend the bottom arm straight out in front of the body, palm facing up. And we're going to bring the top hand on top. So resting that top palm into the bottom palm. And thinking about that bow pull that we did from our warrior position. So we're going to slide the top hand across the bottom arm, across the chest, and then reach it away behind. And then circle up towards the ceiling to bring the palms back together. So big sweeping circle. And it can be really lovely to let your head roll onto the back of the head to look up at the ceiling, just to bring that rotation up evenly through the spine. Linking breath, it might be lovely to inhale, open, breathing into that space, and exhale, returning around to center. Let's take 2 more full steady breaths. And then returning back to the side and just letting everything soften and relax here. Letting the whole side of the body soften in. And as we start to wind down, heading towards our relaxation, just allowing space for rest to be part of our joyful movement. Can we find joy in rest? Can we be curious about how rest feels for us? What type of rest is most supportive and feels the best? Let's take 1 more full breath here. And then let's make our way over to the other side. So maybe you roll onto your back and head over the opposite direction, or again, maybe you press yourself up and change ends. Finding yourself there as you're ready, that support of the underside of the body, that nice alignment of the shoulders, the hips, the feet, the bend of the knees, keeping us really supported here. And then let's take that hip rotation. So knees connecting this time, top foot, just lifting and lowering. And if you find it particularly challenging to stay stable, you could bring the fingertips of the top hand just down on the floor in front of you, just pressing the fingertips a little to give you a little bit of support to stop that temptation to rock forwards and backwards. If you don't need it though, or you feel like you want to embrace that challenge of staying supported without the hands, it can be great for, first of all, our body awareness of figuring out whether we are rocking forwards or back, but also that stabilizing strength. When we're trying to move one thing, we often think it's the thing that's moving that's working the most, but often it's everything else holding us steady so we can move that one thing. Let's take 2 or 3 more of those lifts with the top foot. Last one now. And then letting that top leg rest into the bottom leg. When you're ready, we can set ourselves up for those twists. The bottom arm extending long, the top hand coming on top. That big sweep across the bottom arm, over the chest and away behind, and then extending up towards the ceiling to return. Can you find a smooth, steady rhythm with your breath? Let's do 2 more rounds, just 2 more breaths in this gentle twisting movement, noticing that gentle rock of the head as we open up. And with the next exhale, just returning to your side here. Feeling that weightedness of the underside of the body, supporting us, holding us here. And then heading onto your back from here. You might just simply roll from where you are. You might want to readjust your position first. And let's bring ourselves back into that ball position, drawing the knees towards the chest. Just a bit of a rock around in different directions, doing that movement. And taking any last movements or positions that feel right for you, whether you want to plant the feet and just take the knees side to side, or from that hugging position, you could come into happy baby. Finding that place that feels right for you to be, just for a few breaths here before we find a comfortable resting place. And let's find our way gradually to stillness if that feels right for you today. You can of course, change your vision anytime that you need. But maybe you want to stretch the legs out long. Maybe you'd feel better with some support under the knees, or the feet flat and the knees resting together. Adding any layers or props that you need to feel supported here. As we settle into stillness, perhaps taking a big deep breath in, a big sigh out. Can we use our breath to support our body, our mind here? Perhaps with each inhale, inhaling a sense of joy and wonder in our body, in movement, in stillness, in taking time to do something that we love. As we breathe in this sense of joy and wonder, as we breathe out, can we let it expand and absorb into our body? We feel the tingles, the warmth, the sensation that comes with that breath. As we take a few moments in stillness. And slowly we can draw our breath in a little deeper. Feeling that air filling up the lungs, filling up the body. When you're ready, finding a little bit of movement in your hands and your feet. Gradually making those movements larger as you feel ready. And gently making your way back up to a tall, comfortable seat. Finding that support of the sitting bones underneath you that hide up through the spine. I invite you to bring your hands together in front of your heart. We'll just take 3 rounds of breath together. Inhale, bringing the hands up overhead, up through the middle. Spreading the fingers wide as we exhale, reaching out wide, coming back down in front of the heart. Do 2 more like that. Inhale to reach up tall. Exhale, expanding out wide. And 1 more time. And as we bring the hands back to rest in front of the heart, I invite you to head into whatever comes next for you, just with a little bit of this sense of joy and wonder, being on the lookout for little moments to notice things that we love doing, to notice sights, sensations that feel really good, to bring a little more enjoyment into our day and our week ahead. From my heart to yours, hope you have a really beautiful day. Thank you for stopping in and spending part of it with me. And I'll see you again soon. Thank you.